You might be facing the most challenging thing in your life, like I was. But I'm here to tell you, I'm here. Real Talk is here to hear your story and to help you get through it. Make sure you join me on Real Talk. I want to take this time to thank our viewing audience for your support on Real Talk with Jean Price. We have some exciting news. We are now going to be featured on YouTube as well as Facebook. We have had an opportunity to discuss debt cancellation, the pandemic. We've discussed depression, anxiety. We even discussed what it's going to be like to go back to school, how our restaurants going to fare. You don't want to miss what we have upcoming on Real Talk with Jean Price. So remember, join me on YouTube and Facebook with Real Talk with Jean Price every Wednesday at 6:30 p.m. I'll see you soon on Real Talk with Jean Price. Listen, we have an exciting show coming up for the holidays. Jean's Favorite Things. You don't want to miss it. Go to YouTube, make sure you subscribe, but make sure you put in the comments, hashtag Jean Favorite Things. Make sure you put hashtag Jean's Favorite Things in the comments below. See you then. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining me tonight on Real Talk with Jean Price. I'm glad that you are tuning in. You still have time to tell your friends and your family. This is going to be a real serious discussion on tonight. We've had an opportunity on last week to deal with domestic violence. The week before, we dealt with breast cancer awareness. But tonight, we are going to be talking about a very serious subject, something where the word common, it comes into play, but it shouldn't be common. Because 1 out of 5 women during their college years, men, young children, have been sexually abused. Sexual assault, sexual abuse can happen to anyone at any time and is colorblind. So tonight, we have a wonderful guest with us. She is going to be sharing her story. She's also going to give you a glimpse and a peek into her book. You do not want to miss this. It is my distinct pleasure and my honor to introduce my guest tonight. Her name is Amanda D. Genest, and she has written a wonderful, wonderful book, and it is entitled, I Am. Amanda, thank you for joining me tonight on Real Talk.
Hello, Lady Price. Thank you for having me.
It is. I've been waiting all day for us to get on here and we can just sit and chat and talk about a subject that's too. What's the word I like to use? I use the word common, and it shouldn't be common. One of the things I wanted to say to you as I began to read your book, you used the key word in your book that really captivated me, and I want to know why you used it. You called it your journey.
Yes, I did. I called it my journey because that's exactly what it is. Life is a journey. We don't stay still. When you think of the word journey, you think of movement, and we're always into something different throughout our lifetime. So we have all these different parts of the journey that we go through. And I truly believe when someone is living, they are journeying throughout the universe. You never know what's going to come forward to face you while you're here. So it is a journey. It is a journey.
You start off in some of the commentaries that you wrote. I am a survivor. Tell us your story, survivor.
When I was young, uh, it's hard to say exactly how old I was, but I know it was less than 6 years old. When I was young, I was sexually molested by my half brother. And he wasn't the only abuser in my life. So when I wrote the book, I wanted to be open about exactly what happened.
Mhm.
So from the sexual abuse, the after effects of the child sexual abuse takes you through a journey, especially if you don't get help for it. It takes you to a through a journey of adversities because of not knowing how to channel that energy.
Mm. That is so true. One of the things you said four words in your commentary that I read. You used the word empower, educate, engage, and encourage.
Yes.
Tell us about that a little bit.
Those are the four words that I feel are important to the healing process. And it is important for us to heal. And in order for us to heal, you have to be able to process exactly what's going on, what happened, or what is happening. In order for you to process it, you must talk about it. And in order for you to want to talk about it, you have to build the courage inside.
Hmm.
You empower yourself by saying, the silence is going to create a blanket for the abuser to do this to someone else. And you empower yourself with the thought that you're going to help someone else by talking about it.
All of us know someone, and that's my story. That's my journey, as your word that I have gone through. And even as we were talking backstage, you and our lives kind of mimicked each other. I have gone through sexual abuse myself, and I thank God that I am now victorious on the other side. One of the things that
Amen.
captivated the trauma, because it was definitely a trauma in my life, was the silence. And when I say the silence, the inability to speak. And I
Right.
felt like that kind of carried along in different, as you were saying, different pathways in my life. How do we help children break their silence and trying to get through sexual abuse? Because before you answer, one of the other words that it did was it paralyzed me. It not only silenced me, it paralyzed me.
Well, through my work in in law enforcement, I took with me my experience.
Okay.
So, fortunately for me, I was able to talk about it. I was able to tell because I asked a question. No one knew it was happening in the household, and he would do this thing to me while everyone was in the house,
Wow.
and no one knew what he was doing. He did it so nonchalantly. No one suspected anything because he was my brother. And it just so happened one day my sister asked me, why did I lock the door? And I had reason to tell why I locked the door.
Mm,
Now, sexual abuse is not something that was talked about in my home. When I told about it, it was taken care of immediately.
okay.
He was removed from the premise and told never to come back. But that wasn't ever talked about again.
Okay. Yeah.
The wrong was done. We corrected it. It's over. But I still felt it inside. I felt the need to let it out because it doesn't end because it stops.
That's right. That's right.
Now you're carrying all of these confused feelings. Sometimes you're numb, sometimes you're depressed, sometimes you're confused.
Yes, yes.
And I knew I was loved by my family, but I didn't realize it was a problem. The after effect was a problem for me. So I started writing, and the writing helped me because it was as though I took it and I threw it out in the universe. I wasn't carrying it on my back anymore,
Mm-hmm.
but I was able to visit it whenever I wanted to. So my thought, from my thoughts and my experience, I'd like to say when you have children around you, it's always good to just nonchalantly start up conversations with them.
Mm-hmm.
Ask questions. You're not asking questions open. You have to ask open-ended questions. What'd you do today? How was your day? Who'd you spend your day with? And it's important also to teach children body safety from
Yes,
a young age. You teach
yes.
them body safety, their body parts. If a child is so young and a child wants to report to an adult something's going on, you want to know exactly what they're saying to you when they're reporting to you that someone's doing something unpleasant to them. So I would say start up that conversation. You don't have to go directly into, oh, did someone touch you there? Yeah, just a conversation about the happenings of the day. And we need to pay attention to the children. Kids are people too.
That's right. That's right. One of the things you said was after experiencing misguided love, teenage pregnancy, and dropping out of high school, as a direct result of unhealed trauma from sexual abuse. The reason why that was so important to me to say right now is because sometime in relationships, women and or men, we can have something, a trauma that happens in your life, and then you go through your life again making decisions because you're really not dealing with the root. And that's what I want to talk about for those that are listening, those that have tuned into you today, Amanda. We want to talk about the root of it because people have repeated behavior and patterns because they don't deal with the root of it. And that trauma is really an injury.
It it is a fact, Lady Price, that when you suffer child sexual abuse, the likelihoods of you experiencing rape later on in your life,
Mm.
it's it's high.
Yes, yes, yes.
Um, Not talking about it and not addressing it leaves you with behaviors that are not healthy for you,
Hmm.
especially depending on the length of time that you were being abused. I have There's a term that's used where they say they are actually grooming you.
Wow.
The abuser grooms the victim,
Right,
starts buying gifts, wanting to be that close friend of the family, wanting to be that person that the child would come to if the
right,
child is
right.
angry because the parents didn't give them their way. They put themselves in a position
Hmm.
that is easy,
Definitely.
that is easy to get to the child. So the after effects of it, there are certain behaviors that are rooted in you
Yes.
as far as your misconception about love.
Mm.
When should you kiss someone, or when is it okay for someone to touch you? it's and again, it's based on the type of incident that each individual went
Yes.
through.
Yes.
But it is deeply rooted, and I always say it's healthy to get help. It's healthy to talk about it,
Mhm.
write about it, externalize it. It's so important.
Yeah. One of the classes that I took, because I am a certified facilitator for sexual abuse, helping children. And one of the videos that I saw when I went for my class, Amanda, it stood out in my mind. And the little girl said, like you said, you're asking your children, well, how was your day? You know, what did you do today? And one of the things the little girl said to her mom was, my daddy ate my cookie. And the mom just sat there and she was just like, oh, okay. So as if, you know, you have cookies in the cookie jar. But that's
Right.
not what she was saying. She said, mommy, daddy ate my cookie.
Right.
And I love the fact that you were talking about paying attention to the signs of children. What she was trying to say that daddy was doing something
Yes.
inappropriate to me.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? So you got to
Yes.
pay attention. And I suffered with panic attacks, anxiety. I had to stick my head out the window. I was always feeling like I'm going to pass out. Amanda, those were all clear indications that something was going on.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying?
And for every child is different.
Yes.
You may find that this young child is having inappropriate conversations about sex.
Yes.
Like, where'd you get that from?
Right.
Or talking too much now, being very more active than they usually are,
Mm.
or a child who has surpassed wetting the bed years ago is now wetting the bed again.
Yes.
The grades are dropping. When you're saying to your child, okay, we're going to Uncle John's house, and the child starts crying, I
Mm.
don't feel good, my
Mhm.
tummy hurts. And it's a constant that each time you say we're going to Uncle John's house, and this is the reaction of the child, pay attention, ask questions. Don't force feed information. Ask open-ended questions. How come you get sick every time we're going to Uncle John's house? Don't you like to go to Uncle John's house? Well, how come you don't like to go to Uncle John's house? Pay attention. There
Yeah.
are signs, and usually when a child is physically abused, we can see marks. We
Yes.
can see them unkempt if they're being neglected at home. Um, but the sexual abuse, we have to look a little deeper.
It's true. It's really true. And if you don't, like I said before, you can definitely carry that on into other relationships. You wrote
Yes.
something also in your book, and you were referencing talking about not being afraid to die. But the reason why I want to talk about the fear is because fear is captivating
Yes, it is.
and it's gripping. One of the tactics that I found with the perpetrator that abused me was that he used a lot of fear. And I tell this when I was, before the world closed down, when I was going around speaking about it, because he told me he would kill my mother if I ever
Oh.
told anybody. So that fear is the thing that kept me in it. And it's like there was no way to get out of it. Can you kind of talk about that a little bit, about how fear can grip us, even adults? Let's not just talk about children. A woman that
You're
has
absolutely
kids
right.
could be afraid to go to the police or say tell you or someone, whoever, because of the fear. We got to talk about that a little bit.
Yes. And I always say the support is very important. And that's why, again, I go back to having certain conversations with your children.
Hmm.
Now, the fear is there because they feel a threat. You felt threatened. This person threatened you. And it's so important to identify the responsible people in your life and your children's lives. Identify people that you trust. Identify people for your children to trust.
Hmm.
You want to explain to your children what the do's and the don'ts are. When children are so impressionable,
Hmm.
when an adult speaks to a child, there's a part of my book where I say they tell you to respect your elders. And I do believe in respecting your elders, but is this a person, is this elder, this adult, a responsible adult?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
These are the things you have to look for to make sure that you're pointing your children in the right direction. Now, the fear that you deal with inside, usually you do have to get help in order to overcome it. And
Yes.
if someone is making you feel fear, and I'm speaking to an adult, if someone did something to make you feel fear, something's wrong.
Right. Right. Yeah.
And there are places for help. No matter what the situation is, there are, in fact, places for help. So we have to take the time to process.
Right.
I say process is an important part of it all. Process. What are you afraid of?
Mm-hmm.
You're talking to yourself. What are you afraid of? What can the outcome be? You're going to weigh these things out, but always keep in mind the important factor is you, your well-being, how you feel inside. You are the one responsible for you.
Right. Angela chimed in tonight and she said she agrees with us that one of the greatest tools is abuse. Abuse is the improper treatment of something or someone. And that's why I'm glad you're kind of talking about the fear factor, because fear is a thief of faith.
Amen.
That's the one thing I tell you that I can honestly be transparent and say in my transition, Amanda, of being going through the healing process, like you said,
Right.
was that fear over faith. And I would vacillate between understanding that I didn't have to be afraid of a God that wanted to heal me, but I couldn't let go of the fear because it had become such a part of me. Of course,
Right.
years ago, and I'm grateful that the Lord has healed me, and I'm over it. I thank God for that. But it was really, really a struggle taking my faith and putting it over fear. Can you kind of talk about that a little bit from the spiritual perspective? Because I don't know if everybody, everybody's not spiritual. I get it. I can
Right.
talk about my faith because I thank God He healed me. But I want to talk about that a little bit because it really did take the power of God to deliver.
Yes. Yes. I'll use writing the book for an example.
Okay.
All of those poems that I wrote starting from a teenager, I looked at them and I would hide them. No one really knew that I was writing all of these things. And one day, someone said to me that they had had a bad experience with sexual abuse and they were so overwhelmed with the feelings that they had inside about it, and I offered a poem for her to read.
Okay.
And when she read it, she said to me, I feel so much lighter. And I said, why? She said, because it happened to you too.
Mm,
And I said, yes, that means you're not the only one.
right.
And she said to me, have you ever shown this to anyone else? And I said, no. But while she was talking to me, I felt the strength to now want to show it to others to help them. Now, the the strength that it took in me could only come from God.
Amen. That's right.
The embarrassment that I felt from when the incident happened to that point that I decided I was going to publish these poems, it was almost as though it just disappeared.
Mm.
I can't say 100% because I would still in the back of my mind say, well, how are people going to look at you? And the faith in me led me to believing, my faith in God led me to believing if He can love me the way I am, I really
Mm.
don't have anything to worry about.
Wow.
He's taking me through this journey. So faith is so important.
It is. It is.
It's so strength. It's everything for me. It's everything.
Angela chimed in again, and it's so powerful, Amanda, what she said. She said, I didn't address my fear until I realized I was losing the ability to love. You know what? I can just stop right there. She said some more, but I just got to stop right there. I want to finish what she said. I want to go to commercial break, but I got to stop. That was so powerful. I
Yes, it is.
fear until I realized I was losing the ability to love. Oh my goodness. Do you know
Yes.
how people feel like that?
Yes. Yes.
And then Angela goes on to say, I had decided it was easier for me not to love so I could remain void from the pain. That's how traumatic that fear and those traumatic things happen in your life. That's how it grips you. But then on the other side to what Angela said, Amanda, but yet we also know we want to be loved. We want to avoid the pain, but we got to all understand with that is a risk. But yet we want that love. So we're going to take a commercial. Angela, thank you for that. It was powerful. We're going to
Yes.
come back with Amanda. We're going to continue to talk about her book, I Am. She's going to read us just a couple of lines from one of the poems that she has written. And while we're doing that, listen, guys, thank you for tuning in because I'm so glad we can talk about surviving sexual abuse. I'm so glad we can talk about fear. I'm glad we're talking about that because that fear has gripped a whole lot of us. But I'm so glad if you came out of that fear, listen, Amanda and I are grateful to God for you. And for those that are still in it, guess what? You can come out. But we'll be right back after this commercial break.
And he wouldn't get off of me.
And I started to ask him to stop.
And I remember waking up and opening my eyes, and it wasn't my boyfriend at all.
I ended up losing my virginity involuntarily in a room full of people.
Was wearing a floor-length skirt when I was raped on my
around the age of 5.
Through my boy.
Welcome back to Real Talk. I'm with my guest, Amanda D. Janess. She has written an awesome book called I Am. And before we went to the commercial break, Angela kind of got us stirred up. We were talking about what's it like when that fear grips you and losing that ability to love because we want to be avoid of the pain, but yet we still want to be loved. So it was just a great thing to end with. But Amanda's going to come back and join us. She's just going to read a couple of lines from a poem that she wrote rather, in dealing with some of that fear.
Yes, and I'm reading this poem. Hello?
Yeah, we're here.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, I'm reading this poem especially because of the statement Angela just made. It's called Believe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I thought it was wrong to feel sexual. What you did to me as a child caused me to put up a wall avoiding me to enjoy the very things my God created me with in order to love living and to care for all. My self-existence is what you almost took. By violating me mentally and physically, your stench on me cannot stay. The natural feeling of being sensual, I thought was bad, but I know now those feelings I feel are proper, but what you did makes me sad. I realize in this life, I have to be able to love someone enough to give them my promise and my soul, lay with them and trust that the wonderful life God has for me will now unfold. To feel sexy and attractive is part of my womanhood. You tried to ruin me. You did what you did just because you could.
Wow. That was awesome. That was
Thank
awesome.
you.
I had an event, Amanda, and those that are listening, this time last year, and I did a documentary as well entitled Amazing Grace, Surviving Sexual Abuse. For the last 15 minutes or so that we have left in the show, I want you to encourage the audience about how they can survive, whether it happened to them or whether somebody that they know. And I want to circle back to those 4 key words that you use that really got my attention. The first one I want to just dabble just a little bit is empower. How can we, oh, I got chills on my arms, I tell you, how can we empower women and or men that need to survive sexual abuse or any type of abuse?
Listen. When they speak, listen. Most of all, the listening is going to encourage them to talk.
Mm-hmm.
Show empathy. Don't judge. Encourage. Support. Guidance to getting the necessary help is important.
Yeah.
That's it. Just be there. It's so important.
Yeah, it is.
It empowers you.
Mm-hmm. It does.
And it encourages you.
It does. What about engage? You wrote engage survivors and supporters not to be silent, but take back your right to feel safe if
That's
it
right.
feels wrong.
Yes. Engage. Again, we go back to that conversation. It's okay to let people know that this is a part of you. This is instilled in your foundation. It doesn't go away. You are the person that you are today with that in you. And we need to let others know that we're still here. We're still here. We can still love. We still need love. And most of all, we're always healing. Always healing. You look at me, and I am as good as I am going to be today, but I have faith that tomorrow I'm going to be better.
That's good.
And we have to encourage, and the way we encourage is to engage with others to let them know that they're not alone.
Yeah. I want to kind of go back just a little bit, Amanda. I tell you, I don't know. I feel this push in me tonight to kind of. I feel it. I just want to. I just want to go back to the love piece, because love is something that we all desire, but yet because of trauma and things that have happened, we don't go for it. And I got so stirred up again when you were talking and when Angela was talking about that love piece, because people that are listening to us, how can we encourage, because I'm looking at women, I don't see any men, but how can we encourage these women if they have experienced it, that they are entitled? And I think that's why I get indignant, because they are entitled to pure, true love.
If you're missing it, that means it exists.
Okay.
You may not have had it, But if you're missing it, that means you know it is out there to have.
Mm-hmm.
And if you want it, then you have to make you ready to receive it. And for everyone, getting ready to receive it is different.
Mm-hmm.
But you have to start somewhere. And I tell you, for me, writing worked. Writing was very therapeutic for me. I had no idea that the therapy from writing was what brought me to where I am today.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And if you have to start by just writing your little stories, that's a step towards externalizing. But there is help out there. There are people that specialize in child sexual abuse and adult who have survived child sexual abuse.
Yes, definitely.
And they can help you navigate on how to learn to open yourself up to receive what is rightfully due to you.
Mm-hmm.
Love.
That's beautiful. That's awesome. Now I'm going to ask my audience that's listening, those that are chiming in, if you have any questions for Amanda, as we'll be winding down very shortly the segment tonight. She said some key words. We talked about empowerment. We talked about education, engaging, and of course encouragement. We also chimed in tonight and talked about having faith over fear and not letting it stop you. I like that. You said something that's so key about listening. So to the viewing audience tonight, if you have any questions, this is now an opportunity for you also to ask those questions that maybe you might not want to ask, or just to get some more advice. Amanda's background is law enforcement as far as what she did in what she might still be doing in her profession. So there's so many, I can see so many key points why she went in the direction that she did in her life, which is absolutely phenomenal. But we do have a responsibility to your point, Angela, help save the children. Yolanda Adams sings a song, "What About the Children?" And wow, and every time I think about that song, it just brings so much light into what we're talking about tonight. And she talked about so many innocent children that choose the wrong way, but a lot of people and or children choose the wrong way based on their pain.
Yes, and if you don't mind me saying,
Yes, please.
don't judge.
Amen. Yes.
Judge. Ask questions. You want to find out why. Don't judge.
Mm-hmm. Yes, it's true. It's really true. That's one of the key points in, I work with, like I said, children and women that have gone through it, not to judge. People won't feel like they have a safe place. And I think it's so important to give people a safe place
That's
for them
right.
to come to, right? So that we can listen. They want to talk. There's
Yes.
some people that want to talk about what happened.
Yes.
And having that safe place is extremely important. If you had some words to say before we close the show tonight, what would you say, Amanda?
I would say kids are people too.
Mm.
If you cannot love yourself, how can you expect someone else to love you? And talk.
Mm.
The silence creates a blanket for the abuser to hide underneath.
Yeah, that is so true. Because you always have to remember, you never know what you're going to do in a given situation until it presents itself to you.
That's right.
None of us.
That's right.
We just don't know. Before we close out tonight, I just wanted to read, and if anybody can just Google themselves, Amanda, and those that are listening, listen to the song that Yolanda Adams wrote, and she's saying, "What about the children?" Because children become adults, and then adults become like we are, and we can, if we don't allow God to heal us and to go through the process, all we do is become repeated offenders because the people around us begin to act like we act. And that was probably one of my greatest things, Amanda. I have 3 daughters, all grown now, but I never wanted my children to behave the way I behaved. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely. You wanted that cycle to end with you.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes, I
Most,
do understand.
yes.
And again, talking about it,
Mm-hmm.
talking to your children, it's a key,
Mm-hmm.
key part of everything, communication.
Yes, most definitely. Well, listen, I want my viewing audience tonight. We want to thank Amanda for joining us. And please get her book. I've already started reading it. I downloaded it. It's called I Am. And my daughter said something to me earlier today. And she said, Mommy, God is giving you so many things, not just a platform of real talk, but just getting together with women. So I'm going to be putting something together with women that we can come and we can talk and have that quiet moment. Sometimes you need to get the noise, get rid of the crowd and get rid of the noise,
Yes,
right? Come
yes,
together so we can
yes,
talk, that we can have an Amanda. We could talk about some of the feelings that were shared tonight about fear, about faith, about tragedy, about loss, about grieving. It's so many things we can talk about. So don't you stay tuned because I'm going to be working on that. So before we close tonight, I just want to remind you the holidays are coming up. And I want to remind my viewing audience to go to YouTube and you want to subscribe and you want to do hashtag Jean's favorite things. I'm going to be giving away some gifts, so you don't want to miss that. So again tonight, thank you, Amanda, for joining us. We invite you to come back to our show so we can
most
catch up with
definitely.
what you're doing.
Most definitely. Thank you so much for having me. It has been a pleasure sharing.
But thank you, my viewing audience. We ask that you join us again next week on Real Talk with Jean Price. I got a little surprise for some of y'all. We're going to change it up a little bit. But you have to come on, tune in next week at 6:30 for Real Talk with Jean Price. Have a good night, everyone.
Good night.
Listen, we have an exciting show coming up for the holidays. Jean's favorite things. You don't want to miss it. Go to YouTube, make sure you subscribe, but make sure you put in the comments, hashtag Jean favorite things. Make sure you put hashtag Jean's favorite things in the comments below. See you then.